ahead.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Brilliantly Resilient Live. And we are live today. We never know, but today we are live. And I am so excited today. I'm just so excited because we have an amazing, amazing guest, Violette de Ayala. Did I say it right?
Oh,
Not bad, right?
Overachiever.
Oh my gosh, look at this. I've been practicing. I've been saying it 50 different ways, and I finally needed Violet to tell me the right way. But Violet, I'm going to tell you a little bit about her because she's amazing. So here's her short bio, which cracks me up. Cuban-American serial and social entrepreneur, founder of FemCity, and virtual mentor to over 20,000 women. 20,000! She's also the author of The Self-Guided Guru, Lessons for Everyday Humans. She's been quoted in Success, Forbes, Entrepreneur, Money, U.S. News, Fast Company, Ladders, CNBC. I could go on and on. Quoted in MarieClaire and featured in bareMinerals. Okay, so there's that part of the girly stuff that I love. Seen in featured campaigns in People, InStyle, served as part of the White House Women Environmental Leaders Program. I could go on and on because there's a gajillion things. But Violet, we are so excited to have you today. So welcome.
I am super excited to be here, and I love gajillion. Gajillion's a great word.
Gajillion, right?
Gajillion.
I think one of my grandkids said that, gajillion, and it just they make stuff up, and gajillion. It's amazing.
Gajillion.
Yeah, that's you. You've got a gajillion thing.
Thank you. You know what? I don't even when you read that, it's like, oh my gosh, that's a lot. I don't know. It just feels so weird when someone reads it because it's like, is that me? That's just a lot.
No, I so relate to that. It's so funny because, and this is one of the things that I tell women, and you can probably relate to this. If you don't know what you bring to the table, start writing your own biography and your own, your lead in that you're going to give, because you're amazed. I always say when people read it, I go, I want to know who that woman is. I really think she's amazing, and it's me. I'm like, yay!
Hey, I'm really great. You know what I've been doing is as soon as I get into these publications, I have to go and write it on my website because if not, I forget. If I put it through, I'll do it next time or next week or whatever. So I literally created this pattern where I stop and I go and I put it on my website because if not, I will forget. And my kids do it now. When they were getting ready for college and they were doing high school things, they would do the same thing. I'm in this club, or I'm in this, or I wrote this for my newspaper for school. Just stop and write it because time goes by and then you forget. And someone's like, and you're like, oh yeah, I've done that. Totally. Because you're not focused on that, you're just hustling through.
And I think when we're having fun and we're doing things that we really enjoy, we get so much out of that personally, but we don't recognize that, hey, that's a piece of your bio now. That's something that means something. And Kristen and I talk a lot about these transferable skills and things that could take you somewhere else. So it really is important to do that. And obviously I'm way impressed by your list because holy cow.
She's
holy
going
cow.
crazy.
I am. I'm going crazy. I'm so excited.
When MarieClaire was like, oh my gosh, we're going to have Violet and blah, 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 blah. And she was losing her mind, right? And look at this and look at this and look at this. And I'm looking up all of your stuff. And I thought, oh my God, but here's my favorite part. As I was listening to other podcasts to get to dive in more to the stuff that you do, I kept saying to myself, because in quarantine, I talk to myself all the time because my kids are at it with me. I'm like, she's so normal. You're so just the way that you talk and the stuff that it's not even like you're teaching. It's like a girlfriend is sitting there on the other end of my phone, just giving me these ideas and lessons. And I just had to crack up. I'm like, Kristen, the book says everyday human. You really are an everyday human that has done this extraordinary stuff and you're sharing it. So I'm just as excited as MarieClaire. I'm just not as nerdy as she is freaking out.
Thank you so much. That's the biggest compliment to me. When I first started traveling for FemCity, years ago, I didn't have any of my photos on FemCity's website. I really didn't want anyone to know that I was associated with it. And as I started traveling through all of our different communities, I did that so that I could actually relate to our members and make sure that they were comfortable in sharing how we can do better for them or what has helped them. And it's funny when they realized it was me, they would stop and go, oh my gosh, you are so normal. You are so down to earth. And it got to, I was like, I don't know what they expect. I'm like, I don't know. At first I was like, is that an insult? Is that a good thing? And I realize now it's a good thing because it means that what I share is relatable. And I always want to have that connection to other humans. I don't want it to ever be I'm so in this other world where I can't connect. My purpose is to help others, and you have to meet people at that level where we're all at, you know, like we were talking like girlfriends, and sharing from the heart, and vulnerable and authentic, and sharing the truth, and be like, yeah, I lost everything. You know, I've hit rock bottom, that kind of stuff.
You know, I don't even know. I'm just going back in my head over the list of things that I read, and I don't even know if FemCity was part of it, but that's how you are a co-founder of FemCity. So we talk on the show about kind of the reset, the rise, and the reveal of your brilliance. So was there a moment when you started FemCity, where did that all come from? And what part of your journey made you think, all right, I got to do something different now. I need to get into something different. Were you called? We talk about like this tug that people feel. Where did all that germinate?
Yeah, so it's actually a really great story because I think so many of us can relate to it. So I really started FemCity. I had my own PR agency. I was doing environmental campaigns here in South Florida. I worked with the mayor's office, 2 different mayors of the city of Miami. And I was really loving the work that I was doing. It was making an impact in our community. I'm obsessed with Miami. I love it. And I started thinking about running for office. And I also thought I was quite lonely running my own firm and not having the connection to other women. And I had that in North Carolina. When I lived in North Carolina, I owned a Pilates studio, and I had that there. It was a group called Chicks in Biz, and I absolutely loved it. And so I was looking to connect with women like that here. And every time I'd go to a networking event, it felt like so showy and so like, you know, over the top. And it never felt like I was making those connections that are really profound and really based on friendship and connectivity. It was always like kind of spammy. And so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna invite some of my girlfriends, and we're just gonna meet once a month, and it's gonna be like 20 of us. And so I invited some of my girlfriends, and I sat and I told them, I think I'm gonna start this. It's just gonna be community-based, and maybe we'll do some nonprofit work together. And I want it to be that we can help each other. And so I did the first event. It was totally like not a flop, but it was rather boring. So we all kind of sat around, and like people were looking at me like, now what, Violet? And so there was no curriculum or no programming. And then the second time I did FemCity here in Miami, we launched in Miami. And I had, you know, like the Goldilocks story, like it's too little porridge, and then it was like too much or too hot or too cold. So I went over the top, right? I had like all these speakers and I had all these activities for us. And then that was a little bit overkill. And it was really our third and fourth in Miami that it started kind of finding its own groove. And that was in March of 2009. At the end of that year, we had no website, no business model, no membership. My son had gotten me on this new platform called Facebook. And I was posting pictures on Facebook of our gatherings. And that's when I had friends of mine from around the world that were saying, hey, I really love this. Like, who do I talk to about starting this in my community? And I was like, well, that would be me, but how ridiculous. Like, why would you want this in your community? We're just a bunch of women getting together. Like, what's the big deal? You could do that. Anybody could do that. And really, after the 10th time, do you know when someone tells you, you have got to meet Kristen? Oh my God, you have got to meet me. And then after the 10th time, you're like, oh my gosh, okay, I will reach out to Kristen. It was the same thing with FemCity. It was like so many women started asking for it. And it finally came to a head when we had our lunch in November of 2009. The Ritz-Carlton here in South Florida had done this beautiful spread for us with 60, 70 women. And a woman came up to me and said, Violet, I drive from Fort Lauderdale every single month for your lunches. And I am so tired of driving, and they're always sold out. And I think you're being very selfish for not starting one in Fort Lauderdale.
Wow.
And by the way, I sat on 6 boards at the time, and I was raising a lot of money for local charities. And so for her to call me selfish, it was like a stab in the heart. It was like, I cannot believe this woman has just called me selfish. But again, after so many women asking, and then this kind of, conversation, it really woke me up. And I said, I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to follow what the message is from the universe. Something is calling me in this direction. I'm just going to go with it and figure it out. And that's really how the evolution of what was called Femme Professionals then turned into FemCity, and that's a whole other story. But that's where we started launching into more and more communities. I would test it out to see how we're doing. Are we doing okay? Launched a couple more. And then we started evolving. When Google reached out to us a short time after that, they loved the work that we were doing. They wanted to teach classes for our members. I was like, that sounds cool. Like totally open for that. Wow. And that's where we pivoted into creating more of these classes for women, because our members were like, I really need this in my life. Like, I don't know how to do, LinkedIn or Zoom or Pinterest or Instagram and all these new platforms out. Even like Yelp. Yelp was a partner of ours. They would teach classes to our members on like how to get on Yelp. What do you do with a negative review? And that's really the evolution of what I've started. And honestly, it's always been a pull from above with me listening to what women want and then moving forward in that direction. It was not easy. It was not overnight. There's been a lot of pain. I've put in a ton of money into this. I really believed in the work that I was doing, that we were doing together. And that's really how it started and how it's gotten to where it is today. So it's not perfect. And I want to emphasize that, because I think a lot of times women go with their passion, go with the connection that they have, this alignment to their purpose, and it doesn't go the way it should in their minds, right? It doesn't turn out perfect. And then they give up. So I could have given up after the first launch and said, well, that was a flop. I could have given up, after launching a couple cities and then having some issues there. I could have given up. I mean, there were so many moments of wanting to give up because it was hard. But, I'm so happy I didn't.
What is it about, what is it in you that doesn't give up? Is there like a certain something, or is there some skill that you can give a name to? Because so many people are in that boat right now. They started because they keep saying to us, you guys kept going and have this live show. Like, how? Trying to name it is hard. Any thoughts?
Purpose. I think it comes down to purpose. Every time. So honestly, I've been doing it for 10 years. Every once in a while, I'll get a big job offer, right? Huge salary, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that sounds good, because I've had to inject, $250,000 into FemCity. So it's not been an easy ride. But I think to myself, what is my purpose? What am I here on earth to do? And even when I think back when I had the Pilates studio, it was all women. I ran it for almost 10 years. My part in their life is to help them transform into the beauty that they see themselves in, like having them step forward and loving themselves even more and designing their life. And so much of the work that I do with FemCity is very similar. It's not so physique centered. It's more mindset. It's more in the resources, the support, the love. And so every single time I thought about giving up, I would get some random email from some random person I didn't know that said, thank you so much for the work that you do with FemCity. Because of you, my life changed. Because of you. And so the purpose and the alignment to what you want to leave in this world has really, I think that's the fundamental core of many of us that don't give up, is that when we think about it, we go through the scenario and then we're like, but it feels like a connection in my soul. It feels like something the work is not done yet. And that's what pulls you forward. Where most people, I think, just say, it's too hard. But everything in life is hard. Friendships are hard to stay connected with. I mean, everything in life is not hard, but it's got bumps. It's got bruises,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so funny that so many of the things that you just said resonated, I think, with me and Kristen both, because we have these kind of through lines that we go. The first thing that caught my attention, though, was that sometimes others see the value in what we do before we see it. And like you were saying, this was kind of like a calling that you had, and you thought, well, I'm just going to start this. But again, I think you're a spiritual person. Kristen and I are spiritual people. That's put there for a reason. Mm-hmm. And when people start responding to that, as you said, that's where your purpose is. That's how you kind of have to move forward to that. And if people are saying things to you, you got to listen.
Absolutely. And I love that you pull that out of that, because that's why I share it from that perspective. Is I didn't know what it looked like. It had no business model. It had no revenue. It had nothing. It was like just some pull within me and listening to people around us, and saying, what, there's something here. And what I found was that the pictures that I was sharing on Facebook shared real women. And I think that was what they saw. We were happy. We were all laughing. Everyone was beautiful. Didn't matter age, height, weight, color, skin. Like, it didn't matter. Like, it wasn't like a, clip art or that, kind of like image of everyone being like, swallow. It was like real women. And I think that's what, even to this day, I think that's what women feel a connection to initially, or they come across the website or social media, or maybe they know someone and they're like, wow, it's real women. And there has always been a spiritual component with FemFessionals, FemCity now. There's always been a spiritual component. And I think that also filters out those that, are perhaps aggressive or believe that there shouldn't be any kind of spirituality in the way that we do business. And I believe the opposite. I believe that there's always, and you can call it God, universe, whatever term feels good to you. The reality is that we're all connected energetically, and I have a responsibility to help you, and you have a responsibility to help others. And as we lift up, we pull more women up so that we can all win. It's not just one spot at the top. There are millions of spots at the top, and we should all be pulling each other up.
That is so part of the message that we talk about with the tribe, and you know, and you help me, I help you, and we all rise. And the other thing that I love that you said, and Kristen and I talk about this all the time, do not be married to an outcome. You don't know, you didn't know what this was going to be. You just knew that it was something you had to start. And I think people, like you said, they worry about it being perfect, but the evolution is the beauty of it, because that's when you get to tweak it and play and figure out, you know, what works for this beautiful thing that you're creating.
Absolutely. And as even humans, as we evolve, right? I'm more evolved today than I was before the pandemic, right? So I thought it was pretty evolved then. I thought it was pretty, you know, spiritual. But as situations continue to go on in your life, we continuously up level ourselves. And the same thing holds true with businesses, is that, and I see this all the time with women, like they get so obsessed over the exact logo and the exact thing. And that's great. But just do it, right? Just throw it out there, because it's going to change. Someone's going to come to you and say, hey, you guys have this, you should be on YouTube. You should be, oh, okay. So then you kind of like go in that direction. Oh, you should be. So have that fluidity to follow where the universe is guiding you based on those people that are sharing verbally, you know, hey, I need this in my life. And you're able to serve those people. That's the biggest, I think that's where people also give up. You know, it's like, oh, now I've got to add, you know, YouTube. That's exhausting. And then like, that's it. You know what I mean? Just like, just go.
Well, if you think you're going to do any of this stuff and not be exhausted, you just might as well stop right now, because you're going to be exhausted.
Don't get on the bus. Just don't get on the bus if you don't want to be exhausted. But it's
every day something new.
Yeah, and like you said, when you add
the joy of it.
Yeah, that's the fun. You know your purpose, and it's fueling your soul. That's how we are with it. I mean, we didn't know what the heck we were doing with a live show, and we just figured we'll figure it out. But here's the thing and you hit on this several different times in so many eloquent ways. It's kind of the beauty in evolving and trying new things and screwing some up and then getting back up. The beauty of all of that, I look back on all of my years of failure, and I'm like, now I don't mind trying something new and it might screw up. And I can laugh and I can say, well, that was stupid. You know, and Mary Fran's always like, guess what? Don't worry about looking stupid, because you've been stupid a lot. And I'm like, oh. That's great. It's great, because now you're not married to that outcome. You can try new things. You can take that advice that, oh, you're being selfish, which I found that hilarious, because I felt like
hilarious.
That, like, I should be putting this out in the world, because who am I to hang on to it? But you don't feel like you're there, you know, like, oh, this is like guru kind of thing. People are really benefiting. So that's
I love that you guys mentioned like that sometimes people see the greatness in you before you do. And I think that's what was happening. I multiple times where people saw something greater than what, and then you have that complex that they talk about, like that fraudulent complex, like, well, that's not really me, right? Like I remember when a friend of mine, Nikki Nova, was writing my bio. She's an excellent writer, and she was writing for all these top beauty magazines. And so she was doing me the favor of writing my bio, and she put small business expert. And I was like, Nikki, that is not me. I can't put that down. I was like, oh my gosh. I cannot believe you even thought that. She was like, when did you start your first business? I was like 22. She was like, and how many business magazines have you been quoted in? I'm like, She was like, that's what you are. You are a small business expert. And it was like, she needed to see that in me before I did. And that was, and that's like, all of us go through that, where people are like, and then we're scared, right, to show up in that casing, because we feel like it's not us, but people see us already there.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, Kristen and I have found that, and I think this is I almost think this is a psychological, sociological thing. We feel like in this country, if it's not really hard and we're not really killing ourselves to do it, then it's not valuable and we can't claim it as our own. When in fact, the opposite is true. When you shine at these things that you do naturally and you do so well, that is your expertise. And we need to be able to claim that as women and recognize like, hey, this is where my gifts are. this is what I'm good at. So if the label expert, we all shy away from that because, oh, heaven forbid we be described as experts. But that's what we are. We're experts in those areas where our gifts are.
Absolutely. And the power that we can actually have others also shine. I think that's the other feeling there is that, not only do we shine and we step forward in our natural talents, I call our superhero talents, but if we give the platform to others to also, then it also makes us shine even brighter. And that's also the conversation we have constantly is that as I allow others to shine and I pull them up, it also makes me, it feels good. And then it makes all of us shine together. And I think that's the conversation that I'd love to have more of in this world, because so many times it's like, it's only me. I can't share it with Fran, I can't share it with Kristen. I got to keep it to it's like, just share and be of service to others. And from that, we all really start elevating in this beautiful light. So anyway, I love this. I love how you guys are all like, this is a great conversation.
Do you want to hear the coolest thing about what you just said? Not only does it bring everybody up, it teaches the next generation that that's how things should go. And I didn't even know that. I know that your kids are watching all the time, but they really took to it because my son stood at his high school graduation. He was the speaker and he talked about, he said, life isn't a one-way street. You have to be able to, or he first said you have to ask for help. And when you need something, but life's not a one-way street. You have to reach out and help other people. And I thought, oh my God, they're getting that from the stuff that, of course, I was like exhausted. And could you just have maybe told me along the way somewhere that you're picking up a clue? I was like,
sticky note.
So excited, but it's a whole, that's the greatest gift to pass along instead of people being selfish, to be more of that, and I think that's a big thing happening. Well, actually, I think it's a divide happening right now that there's people that are helping everybody come along too. And there's people that are so scared. They're sitting in their own stuff and they're trying to only worry about themselves. But I think it's more to the side of people are coming together to collaborate because they're out of resources and they're trying to come up together, at least with one other person.
Yeah. And it's contagious too. So some things that we say when we have leaders that come on board and they're launching a FemCity community, we always say, start posting about other women on social media, giving those shout outs, because what happens is that when I give a shout out to Kristen or to MarieClaire, and then other people see that and they're like, wow, that's so nice that Violet just gave him a shout out. And then they see me doing it again, right? To somebody else and another woman. All of a sudden, that behavior, it feels good for them to read it. It feels good for me to post it. It feels good for me to see all those people that I've been sharing also. And so then other people start doing it also. It's the same thing like when you let someone in, when you're driving in traffic and you stop and you let someone in, chances are the person behind you will do the same, because that behavior is sometimes subconscious, but it also is so contagious. And so imagine, like with all the TV shows, I stopped watching TV a while ago because every TV show was like, Violet's stealing Kristen's husband. Mary Fran's gonna steal him also. Then they're all going to, every single show, I just stopped, I give up. And so, but that's programming everyone else to believe that's how women are. Because subconsciously we're watching that. And then all of a sudden we just don't innately trust each other. And so there's a breakdown of the way that women connect based on sometimes the way that we're depicted in art. And so if you use that same mindset and you reverse it and say, I'm going to do the opposite, I'm going to share. And now you see more women producers, you see more women writing screenplays and actually sharing them, being friends and working together. So, and those are popular, right? Dead to Me is a great one on Netflix. You've got the one on HBO with Nicole Kidman, where they all work together. You're starting to see more of that. And that's, I think, really showing like, wow, we are really strong together. And it feels good to help each other. Yeah. It feels awesome.
It really does. It's just that whole idea of the tribe, and Kristen and I say this all the time, people have your back in that group. And Kristen and I one of us will be up here and we'll be like, yeah, and the other one will be like, eh. So this one goes zoop and tries to pull that one up. And it's that constant give and take. We're always pulling each other back from the edge, and at the same time, lifting each other up and pushing each other forwards. And those kinds of collaborations, while they feel good, they also provide that kind of practical accountability thing, because like Kristen and I talk about too, you have to take action steps. And it is sometimes easy, especially when we're all in this big mess right now, trying to recreate the rules and figure things out. Sometimes it is easy to go, I can't be bothered. But then you got somebody else in your ear going, oh, no, 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 no. I'm not letting you off the hook that easy.
Right.
And that's hugely helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the beauty of Fem. That's the whole beauty of the organization, that it keeps people moving forward with all that support.
Even during this time, I was so proud of so many of our members we had members that were like, hey, I'm going to volunteer to help you set up your gift certificate or your gift cards, product. Melissa Ward did that. Then you have other people, hey, we have Michelle Marr, who decided to go ahead and do her own show, her own YouTube. It's called Pivot with Positivity, and featuring women. So you have all these women that were like, you know what, I'm stressed. I've lost a ton of money. I don't know where I'm going to get, tomorrow's money, but I'm going to step forward and I'm going to do what I can with what I've got. I'm going to help other people. And then it also then inspires other people. Wow, she's doing that. Like you guys creating this. Wow, that's really fascinating. Look at them. They're having a great time. They're helping others. They're inspiring. They're moving forward. I need to do the same. Where can I start? So the things that we've been doing during this time have really, you can either play up and do what you can with what you've got, or you can sit there and sulk and be like, this sucks. I'm going to sit here and just, think about how horrible it is. I lost all this money. I'm going to sit here and think about, oh, she's on her own. I don't want to help her. It's too, so there are two different mindsets, that much like what Krista, you were saying, that you're seeing these two, like you're either stepping up and collaborating, or you're not. And you're like, sitting there, like not doing a thing. Yeah.
running for mayor of Suckville. That's what I say. I'm like, well, you just got all the votes for Suckville, so congratulations.
Congratulations, you win. We talk about that all the time too. That is a conscious decision. You have to decide, are you just visiting that place of yuck? And you can visit, it's okay. You're allowed to experience that, but you can't live there. Right. You don't want to live there. Like, you can visit and whine and cry and blah, 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 and then get the heck out of there, because it's like a big beanbag chair and your butt will sink in and you'll never be able to lift out again.
Right.
So you can't stay there. When you have other people around you saying that to you, look, you can't stay there. You can be sad for a little bit, but get out. Time to move.
When this all started happening in Miami, I remember I went to the gym. I knew it was going to be my last month at the gym. I knew it. It was empty. No one was around. I kept asking the front desk, are you guys closing soon? And they were like, no, not yet. And I kept looking around like, well, there's like 2 people here. So I think eventually, like financially, they're going to say, it doesn't make sense to stay open. And I was going because there was only 2 people. And I was like washing my hands and wiping everything with Clorox wipes. So I was going for like that last week. I think it was like at the beginning of March, middle of March. And I remember going to Sephora and getting because I have really bad black circles under my eyes. So I remember getting my little cover up, because I knew, I was like, this is going to be bad. I don't think I'm going to be able to go to Sephora for a while. So I remember standing in line and buying my little, since I'm a little bit brown, it's hard. I have to really match it. It's like my skin color is really hard to match. I had to make sure it was the one. And anyways, checking out, and they were talking about the rumor of the first person in Miami having it. They were all talking like, oh, someone has it. And they already were with gloves, and we had the antibacterial, and everything was really, already kind of getting to be a safer place. And I got home and I was so overwhelmed with the emotion. I sat there and I cried. It was like, I was just, nothing had even started. There was no conversation, but I could feel the energies of everyone, just things were going to change. And I remember crying for like a good 30 minutes. Like, it was a good one,
It was a good cry.
It was an ugly one. It was like, it was filled with everything. And then going back to what you said is like, I can sit here and feel like this. And I did. I went through all the emotions of what this is going to mean for my kids. I had one in Berlin, one in Florence. My husband was working in New York City. What's that going to be? Also, everything, we had a retreat lined up, with all these locations. So processing all that and then shaking it off and going, now what? Now what do I do? Okay, let me move forward. Let me see what I can do to be of service. Let me see how I can help. Changing the energy to be of service to other people pulls you out of that circle of like, like just, and that really helped me. So people were like, wow, you're so busy. You're even more busy. And it was also a coping mechanism for myself to take that energy and use it for good. Like the superheroes, you're going to use your energy for good or for bad,
Exactly. And Kristen and I have had that same experience, because the two of us have said, if we didn't have each other and we didn't just decide to dive into this, again, to your earlier point of not having any idea what this was eventually going to look like, we would have both been not in the bed, under the bed, under the bed with the covers over our heads, under the bed.
Right.
So you make that decision and you go, look, everybody's making up their rules as we go along now. Nobody knows what anything's really going to look like. So you get out there, you try stuff. If it works, great. If it doesn't, fine. You tweak it or you move on to something else. But you can't live in that place of blah all the time.
Yeah.
You just got to get moving. And if you can't figure out how to do it yourself, that's when you pick up the phone and you call somebody, one of your FemCity people, one of your buddies or whatever, and you go, look, I'm really struggling here. And then we all rise.
Right. Absolutely. I remember when it first happened on Twitter, there was a conversation it wasn't Twitter. It was a mom's group on Facebook. And one woman said she and her husband take turns, and it's scheduled in the down and the high days, and they all take turns. And so when she was on Monday, she was allowed to feel down and he would pick her up. And then Tuesday, so they actually had scheduled it out. And I thought that's so interesting, like to give you the luxury of saying, today's your day. If you want to go cry, and if you want to feel bad, and if you want to sit there and just like under the covers for a good 10 minutes, today's your day. I'm gonna pull you up, and hopefully those days, align perfectly so that you're both not in the gutter at the same time. But I thought that was such a brilliant way of being proactive and just saying, you know what, I'm gonna feel all the feels, but I'm gonna make sure that we pull ourselves out of it. So that we're not.
Yeah, we have to honor those things as humans. And you talk about being human. We have to allow ourselves the grace to honor what we're feeling. We just have to make sure it doesn't become destructive.
Exactly.
But how cool that example to manage the expectations, because I find myself here at my house, I have two teens and a 20-year-old. None of them are happy to be looking at me every day. And quite frankly, I'm not happy either. So there's that. We set that rule early on that, no one's happy. But my problem is, like, I'll go down. I was sitting home. I was sitting in the Costco parking lot crying in my Jeep every week, trying to go in and go shopping. And then I pull myself out, and then I come home and I'm over it, putting in new contact lenses. And then one of my kids is down, and I'm like, could we be down at the same time and up at the same time? And then I'm like, man, but that's one. And I think that's something that a lot of people that have the kids at home and the spouse at home, and they're not all used to being together all day, have not figured out that expectation and that dance. And that's one of the biggest stressors, I think, in all of this. Yeah. The dance of who's up, who's down, and realizing that you're going to all be at different levels. But I have not heard that example of they actually have acknowledged it and then scheduled it in. And I'll bet you that on their day, they're like, nah, I'm good. Like, knowing that they have space to do it, and then realize, nah, I don't think I have to do that today, is probably lessening it.
Right. Yeah. It was fascinating to read. And we had that. I mean, everybody had that at home. We had our son was supposed to go to Egypt for this wedding. He lives in Berlin. So he has, he's 26 years old. He has his own life. His new job, and he came home during this time to be with us, and I'm super grateful for that time to be with him. And then we had our daughter who was going to be living, she was in Florence with NYU, was supposed to be in the summer, and so she, so the point was everyone had like these things that they were looking forward to, and Steve and I and everyone, and so when it happened, a lot of the conversation was like, oh my God, my life's upside down. Oh my God, I love it, and having the kids realize it's not just them. It's everyone had something, whether someone was planning a birth in a hospital, someone was planning a wedding, a honeymoon that they hadn't taken in 25 years or finally going to take it. So everyone had these really big things in their own life. But once you realize, oh, wow, you also had that planned. It's not all, we're all in different boats, right? There's some people that are like, where am I going to get my food tomorrow? So there are different boats, but everyone's on a boat of some size, of somewhere, going through their own thing. And once we realize that everyone's got pain, and like honoring that and saying, wow, I'm so sorry, like crying in the Costco parking lot, I can totally appreciate that. You know what I mean? Like, brave of you to go in. I haven't even gone in yet. I like sit there and I'm like, I think I'm not going to go in. I think I'm just going to I'm not going to go in. It's okay. I don't need to have my kale, but I think that's also the beauty of
you that has to have a specific waffle. My Mitchell has to have that one waffle, and I had to go in.
Okay, you're a good mama, but also having that space for other people and saying, you know what, I am in pain because I can't do all these things, but I recognize that you also have things in your life, and then that changed the dynamics of our house, because then everyone was like, oh, you're right, we all had things that we were all looking forward to, and they're not going to happen.
And those lessons of compassion that we are getting that are just that are going to translate, and that's going to be another one of those transferable skills that I really think will end up being intrinsic now for a lot of people, because this has just been something clearly, I mean, how many times have we heard the word unprecedented?
Right.
But to be able to now take that skill of compassion and to be able to move forward and look at what everybody is going through as you continue to encounter people in your life and go, have a little bit more understanding and a little bit more kindness and a little bit more of an opportunity to, again, say, well, how can I help you? How can we work together?
Exactly. Which is good. We should have all been like that from the beginning.
Yeah.
Coulda, woulda, but
that big slammer. You know what's interesting about this conversation? I just had a conversation with a friend over the weekend. Here, I don't know if in Miami they did it, but here in the Philly area, we were one of the cities that they did the flyovers with the Blue Angels.
Oh yeah.
You know, and we had it too. The coolest thing in the world. Well, our town is right near one of the old flight patterns for the Air Force and all. So we are accustomed to, they come over our houses, right? So nobody realized that it wasn't that flight plan. It was a different one that you had to like actually go drive somewhere to see it. So the bottom line is there was a lot of people from my town on Facebook that day pissed. They're like, went outside, we looked up, and I remember calling, this is how ridiculous I am. I called my mom and I'm like, can you imagine how many people that I know that are just like a little bratty, like they're a little spoiled, that we always had them come over? Like, I can't believe they're freaking out about that. Do you know, I talked to one of my girlfriends this weekend and she said that she was one of the ones that posted that. She said it was one of those days where all of her kids and her husband's business and hers had gotten stuff canceled. And that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And I thought it opened my whole brain to empathy and compassion. And that saying that everybody always says, you never know what everyone else is going through. And she had so many things. And then that was the one that looked from one angle to be spoiled. And really it was that broke her. And she had to go raise her hand and ask for help from friends to come back out of that. But man, what a time to really have eye openers for compassion for other people.
It's a little thing. Our son was at Whole Foods this weekend grocery shopping. And he said, oh my gosh, Mom, everyone was on edge. He was with his shopping cart, and I guess he went around the corner too fast. And one woman who worked there, even with the mask on, you could see her eye roll, you know, like she was super upset. And so he was like, oh my gosh, she was so rude. Even with her eye roll, she was so rude. And I was like, yeah, but it could have been the 20th person that almost crashed into her. You know what I mean? Like, so thinking about like when we see people that are grouchy or acting like that, it's usually not about that moment. It's usually about a series of moments that have led to that point where they finally eye roll. You know, I've had it with these people at Whole Foods, you know, I just want to get home. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, so who knows what's going on with them? But when we stop and we recognize like that's not, you know, and by the way, those flyovers, that was really fast. I'm on the, I heard it and I was like, oh my gosh, it's here. By the time I opened my door, it was gone.
They were gone.
They were like all the way in another zip code. I forgot how fast those are because I've only seen them in a parade in our old neighborhood. They would come for a parade or something like that would come for the parade to kick off the 4th of July. So I was spoiled. I would be standing in the parade and then they would kick it off. And so I didn't realize how fast they were. but yeah, I was like, man. And then all my friends like, oh my gosh, I got it. Here's the picture. Here's the video. This and that. I was like, I was totally not. I was like, oh, I hear it. Let me get up and open the door.
All gone.
And there they are. There's their smoke.
It was like they were in Key West already. They were like turning around over by Cuba. It was so fast.
Yeah, next time we'll do helicopter flyovers. They're a little slow.
Give me a little kite.
Slow it down, guys.
You know, something a little bit slower so I have time to get up, you know, make my coffee.
Take a selfie with it in the background.
Take a selfie. I mean, my friends had videos that were like amazing. I was like, man.
I know.
I miss that.
Well, Violet, this has just been the best conversation. And honestly, I think we could continue to talk to you for hours and hours and hours. But in the interest of everybody getting back to whatever is left of our days, let us find out where we can find you, because I really want everybody to connect with you. You're such an inspiration, and you've launched this amazing organization. And I want people to learn more about you. So tell us where we can find you.
Thank you. So you can follow me on every platform, Violette de Ayala altogether. Instagram is pretty much where I share the most behind the scenes, like my renovation on the house, my little vegan dishes. But if you want to go ahead and learn more about FemCity, visit femcity.com. We also do have a free 30-day trial. So if you want to take it for a spin and see if we're for you, it's there. And then it's only $9 to join. Actually, this month it's $9 to join, but it's regularly $15. So super inexpensive. I price it like that on purpose. I want to be there for all women. And yeah, let us into your life, and hopefully it's a good fit.
It's a great organization.
Well, it is a great organization, and I have to say I am a lifetime member, I'm happy to say, and the people that I've met and the contacts and the friendships and the support that I've gotten have just been invaluable. So yes, everybody check that out. And again, we are so delighted to, I'm looking down here because I'm determined to say your name right again. We're so delighted to have had Violette de Ayala.
Hey, that's so perfect. Yay!
From FemCity and every place else. You're amazing. You're a wonderful person. So before I wrap this up completely, we here at Brilliantly Resilient have something that we wanted to talk about real quick. So Kristen.
Now, we have a new resource to help with this whole mindset, where we were talking about when you get down in that pit, and if trying to raise your hand to ask for help and you need to start flipping your mindset around, go to brilliantlyresilient.net/freebie. And you can get the 3 steps to reset your mindset from broken to brilliant.
It's all about the freebie, folks.
Okay,
everybody, thank you for joining us. Make sure you check out Violette on all of her platforms, and we will see you tomorrow on another episode of Brilliantly Resilient Live.
yeah.
Bye.